I would like to now introduce our presenter for the night, our athletic director and head wrestling coach, Mr. Alan Clinton. And Mr. Coach Clinton, if you want to give us a quick update about where we are with COVID and current athletic competitions beginning before I do your presentation.
It'll be my pleasure, and welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. We know it's a special night, and I'm going to cover quite a few things, but I'm going to try to do it in a very brief manner so we have time for a lot of your questions. So that's more important to me than anything. As you know, we are in full bore right now. Our outdoor sports are 100% go. We've already started competition in cross country, water polo, soccer, tennis. We will start football this week with our first game, had our scrimmage. We are full bore. Our outdoor sports last Thursday were voted to go in, and our indoor sports are voted to go in. So we're going to have all 13 sports going at the same time. So as you can imagine, it's very, very busy around here, but we're very, very, very excited to allow all our young men to have the opportunity to participate in sports. So I'm sure you may have some questions on that, but we are full bore, straight ahead, and it's exciting times for us. As we go through, the first thing we want to talk about, of course, hopefully by next year, we'll be in what we call our normal year, 3 seasons of sports. And some of you were with us at our open house. Let me go through those again a little bit. We have 3 seasons of fall sports, winter sports, and spring sports. The fall sports take place starting in August and run through until about the end of November. Winter sports start in November and run through until the end of February, first part of March. And then spring sports start towards the end of February and run all the way through till the end of May. We have 2 club sports, rugby and hockey. Both of those sports are during the winter season. They run December and January and February mostly, but can extend either way according to whether or not they make it to the playoffs. When you look at these sports, the most important thing to remember is people go, how many sports can I play? The max you could play is 3, which we talked about over the weekend. Usually what will happen is your son will go down to 2 as time goes on, becoming a sophomore, junior, and senior. Remember, when you're in a season of sport, only 1 sport can be participated in. There is not enough hours in the day to allow them to compete in more than 1. So as you can see, the sports, we go 3 in the fall, 3 in the winter, and 7 in the spring. So hopefully you can take a shot at that if you'd like to, but those are our seasons of sports. Athletic overview as far as cut sports and non-cut sports. Cut sports, by what we mean by that is there are tryouts, and we are limited to the number of young men that can participate in those specific sports by the levels that we have. So water polo, basketball, soccer, baseball, golf, lacrosse, tennis, and volleyball are all cut sports. So your son could be cut from those sports. Non-cut sports, where we take as many as we can and just try to create more teams, is cross country, football, wrestling, swimming, and track and field. Important for you to know, tryouts for all these sports, it's traditional, especially the cut sports, always take place during the summer conditioning time frame. This year, so that you know, summer conditioning for those specific sports could run anywhere from June 21st to July 22nd. So any time frame during there, coaches could have tryouts. They could be a 3-day tryout, 3-weekend tryout, a week tryout, but all those have tryouts, and they're trying out for those specific areas so that you're set. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit, because that's always a major, major question as we go through. General information as far as sports fees, there's a wide range. They go anywhere from as low as $375 to $1,500, depending on the sport and what's required of the sport. It does vary from year to year, depending on, as it says, there's scheduling, travel, gear packages. This year's a completely different year. We've cut back on some of it just due to the fact that all we're doing is playing head-to-head competition. There are no tournaments in any of our sports this year. Dead period is traditional. Normally what happens is we have a 2-week dead period. It starts the day after we are done with school and runs for 14 straight days. This year it has been waived because we've been on pretty much a dead period for 10 months. So the CF has waived it this year. And so that's why we're running through, and it's kind of cut into our summer because we're going to school all the way through till the 19th. So we wanted to make sure that you understood that. Normally you would have a 2-week period of time frame in there where coaches are separated completely from your athlete and gives you a little chance to go on vacation. Summer conditioning happens at all levels, whether you're a freshman, going frosh soft, JV, varsity. So we want to make sure that you understand that. Some of you are new coming in. You want to make sure that you get registered for summer. Summer is probably one of the most crucial times in your opportunity to make a team. And it's the most important time to try out for those specific sports, especially if you're a freshman. If you want to experiment with something, the summer is the time to do so. Summer cost For one sport, it's $300. For two sports, it's $550, and for three sports, it's $800, just so that you know, and that does not change. What we have is a contact period. May 1st, so that you know, is the first time when you would have the opportunity to be able to talk to a coach personally. Up to that point, it is against CF rules, so you would have to contact the athletic office here and contact either myself, Mr. Hartman, my associate AD, or my secretary, Ann Cross. But on May 1st, you have the opportunity to email, call the coaches, and they can respond to anything that you have. The new parent student orientation is April 14th, so take advantage of that. As we said, summer condition runs from June 21st to July 23rd. And so that you know, freshmen will all be involved in the formation weekend, the 24th and 25th, which is a Saturday and Sunday, and they are here all day. Those are very important dates, so please make sure that you take a snapshot of that and record those down in your calendar. So that you understand our team, and we've talked about this a lot, we're very blessed here, having 2 team doctors and a complete athletic training staff. Their information is there. So that you know, probably one of the areas that for incoming freshmen that kind of is confusing, we always do our physicals right around May 1st. It runs from May 1st to May 15th. We will not be doing on-site physicals this year just due to the COVID. It will start up again next year. So my suggestion to you is download your physical forms, get to your doctor, have your physical done around May, because that is our time frame. It's kind of our current as we go through. So you want to use May as that. Some of you have Kaiser and you have set dates. Try to switch everything over into the month of May so that you're on the same cycle as everybody else. So, but starting next year, we will have our traditional physical day, which all these team doctors come in and perform theirs, and you get it at a very good rate. It's $25 for each kid, and that money goes back into the athletic program and pays for all of our athletic equipment and things that we go through, tape, spray, all of that kind of stuff. So there's never a cost or fee to you or to your student. Director of Strength and Health, Matt Chandler, all 13 of our sports lift, so that you know that. And we have lifting programs created for all of those. That's probably one of the most unique things about us. A lot of people don't have that, but we do for all 13 sports and all levels. Freshmen do their strength and conditioning during their PE classes. So it's not your traditional PE classes of, all that you're normally used to. We do all our lifting out there during that time frame. So very, very important and very, very valuable. It helps in the day, so we're not elongating the day of those young men, freshmen coming in for the first time. Athletic staff, of course, I'm Alan Clinton, athletic director. Joel Hartman is my associate, deals with a lot of the transfer paperwork, if you have anything like that. Carly Carlson's our sports information. She's making sure that all social media is up to date. Ann Cross is very important. So if you look there and you see that email and that phone number, that is huge for you to have. Ann can pretty much answer any question you have. There is no dumb question. I'm just going to tell you right now, especially incoming freshmen. You have a million questions. Please call. Email is much easier just because it gives her time during the day to respond back, because if everybody calls at the same time, it won't happen. But if you have something that's very valuable, you have the phone number and the extension, but email. And if she can't answer it, I guarantee I will be able to. So that's very important for you to have. We want you to make sure that you know that. Okay, our favorite part, question and answer time here.
Thank you, Coach Clinton. As everyone can see, we know everyone's been on Zoom a lot, so we're just trying to get you some basic information. We do have a couple questions for you. So the first one, Coach Clinton, is if a young man doesn't have experience, can they still try out for a sport?
Most definitely, and you want to do that during the summer conditioning period. Don't wait until the season of sport happens, because the teams have pretty much already been made and set. So summer is the most valuable time for you to try out any sport, and we highly, highly encourage each young man to do so. That's very valuable.
Awesome. The other one is, and I know we touched on a little bit, but I don't know if you could, really hit on a little bit more about how we like to support not only multiple sport athletes, but athletes that are involved in multiple activities. I think it's a question that we get a lot in the admissions department is how do we support that, and do we support that?
Very big. Multiple sports is huge around here. I don't think Servite would survive if we didn't have multiple sport athletes. So we really encourage the young men to do more than one sport as we go through, plus all the extra activities going on campus, whether it be robotics, theater, and all the coaches are very supportive of that. So that is a big, big plus here at Servite compared to a lot of other institutions you'll go to. We want these young men being well-rounded and well-experienced in everything that they can do. So we highly encourage them to do more than one thing. Very, 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 very valuable for their future.
Awesome. One question that is coming up a lot in the chat, and I'll take this one for you, is all this information will be available online, and we will have a recording of this available so that I know a lot of people are asking about the dates. So we will make sure we get all this information to everyone in our class of 2025, because I know everyone's been waiting, especially for those summer dates. So we will get that out to everyone. So thank you for that. I'm going to kind of turn one of these questions. They're asking about sports kind of playing year round. Could you talk a little bit about that, about how some of our sports, aren't just playing during their season of sport, but they also do some off-season training and competing as well?
Most definitely. And that's very good for incoming parents to know. Pretty much, as you know, all sports are year round. So most young men, if they're playing 3 sports, are going to go from season to season to season. But if a young man is involved in 2 sports, he's going to be kept busy even in the off season. So in other words, there isn't a sport pretty much that is not what we would say going year round. On top of that, in a lot of our sports, you have club going on. So like club soccer, club volleyball, those things are taking place. But the sport of wrestling, it goes year round. A lot of football players come into wrestling. So they go football, wrestling, then they go back to football and weight training, or they go into track and field. But everything goes year round. There is really not a down period of time with your young man at any time during the year. They are kept very, very busy. And sometimes you may, wonder what they're doing. Trust me, they're in good hands and probably in a very safe place. But we are year round all the time.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, so everyone understands, I'm also the head volleyball coach, like I mentioned. Coach Clinton does a great job of setting the tone with all of us coaches on, even if they are multi-sport athletes and we are going year round, we all do work really well together and communicate. And a lot of that comes from the families and the young men themselves communicating what their schedule is, what's going on. And we really, like we said, we continue to support and push for multi-sport athletes and try to help these young men be the best athletes that they possibly can be. So next question. Go ahead.
Could I throw something out there? Sorry to interrupt. Just so you have an idea and understand that number, right now with what we have 668 young men that are playing sports out of our 700 that are here. Of that number, there is 562 that are playing multi-sports. So there's a good example if you're looking for numbers and what happens. That's a pretty accurate number on how many kids are doing more than one thing, just so that you have an idea on it. So that kind of gives you a little realization on what we're doing here.
Perfect. We're starting to get some good questions in here, so I'm going to just start firing them off to you. One question came in about, due to COVID, will students be tested weekly? So I think the best way is to answer what we're doing now, and then I know we don't quite know what we're doing in the future, but we can at least answer what we're doing now.
Not a problem. So that since we've opened school full time, and we were doing this way beforehand with athletics and stuff, screening is done every day with the young men when they come on campus. So of course, temperature checks. We have an app that they go through to make sure that they're not having any of these symptoms or anything like that. We have an RN on campus, which is huge compared to most schools. Testing, which has been appointed to us by CF. So right now, the sports that are going that have to test is football and water polo. Now, that could change tomorrow, because if we drop to 7 or below on the count, then that testing would stop. Indoor sports, basketball, volleyball, and wrestling will continue to test, because that's what's going to be mandated for the indoor sports. Now, as the numbers come down, that will probably go away. But that is the testing we're doing, but we are screening each young man every day. Sometimes they get screened twice a day, once when they come into school, and then again when they are going out to their athletic situation, so that we're set. So they are very well monitored. I've had the comment that we do it sometimes better than some hospitals enter into. I know that's probably not true, but it makes you feel good that we are on the right track, doing the right thing.
Awesome. So this is a very specific one, but it does affect a lot of our students. So for honors students, do our summer tryouts, summer conditioning conflict with summer school? Is the question.
To be honest with you, usually what will happen is it depends. Each incoming freshman has a different amount of classes they have to take, which I don't control. That would be the counselor. Our coaches, though, do a very good job of rearranging things around so that all the young men are able to try out. And on top of that, with 13 sports, you can imagine trying to get them all in during the day. Everybody does a really, really good job. So no one is left out in the cold. If there's an issue where things, baseball is a great example. We used to have a big issue with baseball and health. Kids would take that. So all we did was we just maneuvered the baseball tryouts down a little bit in the day, and we switched another level up. But the coaches are more than willing to work with everybody. We usually don't have a problem with that. If you have a problem with that, let me know. But we usually don't have a problem with tryouts whatsoever. The coaches are very diligent in making sure the kids are there because they want the best kids in their program. So they're not going to try and eliminate them.
Yeah, and for any volleyball parents, we tend to do tryouts before school, and then they go to school, and then they go to their maybe their other fall or winter sport after. So we really do try to schedule around summer school as much as we possibly can. So, we understand that over half of our freshman class will be in summer school for some reason, whether it's honors or to be prepared for the fall. I can answer this one. We did get a question about, for young, and you could feel free to jump in, Mr. Clinton. For young men who are going to be doing 3 sports during summer conditioning, how does that schedule work out? Again, we tend to kind of work with each other that, I know football goes in the afternoon. So a lot of us spring sports kind of try to take the mornings. So for the most part, our sports don't, because we only have limited facilities, don't overlap too much, especially if you're doing sports in different seasons. The biggest conflict is probably between basketball and football. And Coach Morris, who's a former college football player, works out with Coach Thomas and Coach Cavallero, who's a freshman football coach, to make sure that the boys are maybe doing 2 days of basketball, 3 days of football, build it into football. So we do help the young men work that schedule out with their coaches. Anything else you want to add on that?
The key word is communication. The coaches do a great job of communicating. The key is making sure that your son communicates with the coaches of what sports he's doing. And trust me, they'll work it out. But communication is the number one word coming from your son. So if he's playing football, baseball, and basketball, he just needs to communicate with the coaches, and the coaches communicate amongst each other and make sure that, like Coach Marujo says, when he may go to one thing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, another one Tuesday and Thursday, and one in the morning, one in the afternoon, but the coaches are more than willing to do that. But please make sure that your son communicates. That's key word, because that magic crystal ball we have gets real foggy, and sometimes we don't know everything that everybody's doing. So we do need you to communicate with us.
Yep. A question that's kind of been asked a lot, and I know this, normally we'd have a lot more specific information, but do you have any type of time frame on when you think our summer conditioning schedule will be at least posted for some of these parents to start making plans by sport?
Great question. And normally, if you ask me this, I would have an answer right away. But since we've been in COVID and coaches are just now trying to work on their schedules because it's changing daily and weekly, I would hope that by the beginning of April, probably as soon as we get back from Easter break, we should have all of them listed and ready to go. But it'll probably be sometime after Easter break. So with saying so, I'm looking, about mid-April, April 15th, right around there. I would hope that most coaches would have them in. We will, as soon as we get certain ones up, we will post those, but it's, we're in that time frame where coaches are just working on games right now, trying to make sure that there's enough games for the young men that are here on campus. But April 15th, I hope to have everything posted for us.
Perfect. And then just to reiterate, summer conditioning practices majority are going to be after summer school hours. There are a few of us, early morning coaches, who will do a few before practice, before summer school. So as just a kind of a common question we're also getting in, so I just want to reiterate that. And then pose this question to you, Coach Clinton, is how do parents sign up for summer conditioning?
For summer conditioning, what you will do is it will come out on social media. Ms. Carlson will have that posted out. You'll have the opportunity to fill it out. You can bring in your information, your money right in here to the athletic office. Mrs. Cross will take care of everything that you need, but it will be posted up on social media with the ability to fill out, send in, and bring in so that you can send it in with your son. You can bring it in, whatever it may be, and to come back and kind of help clarify about times a little bit. Give you an example. Cross country usually will run in the morning just because of the summertime and heat of day. Coach Marujo volleyball goes in the morning a lot of times with the young kids going through there. Then most of the other sports usually come down and start sometime around 12:30 and work themselves all the way through into the evening and can go as late as 6, 7 o'clock at night. But that's how we're able to spread out so all of the young men have an opportunity to participate. So, but cross country and volleyball, water polo, a lot of those go in the early morning hours and then come back and do what they need to do in the afternoon, possibly with tryouts to fit in with everybody. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit.
Perfect. And then a really good question is, do physicals need to be done prior to the start of summer conditioning?
Yes, please. That's why we use the May date, because when we come in and start, you know what it's like. We're if you haven't got it done, we're on the kids because we want those physicals in, because that's a liability thing for us and also for the kid. Because what works for us is here compared to a lot of schools, we take out a secondary insurance through Myers-Stevens for your son. So you have your major insurance that's used, but we take out a minor on each kid, but they have to have their physical in before that goes into effect. So we really push the kids to have everything in May. So once they start here, you have besides yours, you have a secondary backup with Myers-Stevens that's paid for by the school.
Perfect. Great. Next question is kind of about the fees. And I know this can be different sport to sport, but in general, could you talk about what the participation fees cover?
Sure. And like Matt says, it's different from sport to sport. The major, I'll call it, portion of the fees really goes to their gear, because we purchase our gear every year, except for the sport of probably football. Football's is completely different because we have to order the helmets and the shoulder pads and things like that. But most of your money goes to gears. It would go to things. It's assisting if your team is a sport where there's a lot of tournaments. It goes to help assist in paying for tournament fees. It goes to pay for banquet fees, all of that kind of stuff, team meals. So it's going, all the money you're getting is going, that you're giving to us is going right back into the kids. And none of it, the coaches aren't buying a set of golf clubs or anything like that. It's going back to your kids. And you can tell by the prices, very reasonable that that's what it's going to, but most of it is geared towards gear so that you're set, or possibly travel, tournaments, things of that sort for the years coming up.
Perfect. And then another summer question, and I know this is one that we get a lot with incoming freshmen, is what happens if you have a vacation plan and it conflicts with your sports summer conditioning period?
What you're going to need to do is communicate that with the coach. Your freshman year coaches are usually very understanding. They understand that. After that, that understanding and forgiveness kind of goes away. So, you get the grace period coming in as a freshman. You don't get it as a sophomore, junior, or senior. But the key word again is communicate. The coaches have to know that. The sooner you let them know that it's planned, then they can rearrange and let you know what's going on there. So that happens all the time. So don't act shocked, but please communicate that with your specific sport, with your specific coach, and so that to kind of help you with the chain of a command of how things go is, remember, always go to your head coach. So in other words, if you're a freshman, you're going to have a freshman head coach. You're going to want to contact him, get the information. If you can't get the answer that you need or something's not there, then go to the head coach of the program, talk to them. If something doesn't work there, then you would eventually come in and meet with me or Mr. Hartman. That usually doesn't go to that level, but because people do a good job of communication and the coach is very good at answering your questions and making sure you're good there. But just make sure you follow that. Don't call me to tell me about your vacation. Make sure you go directly to your specific coach.
Yeah, and starting May 1st, you'll be able to contact your coaches, and they'll be actually able to communicate with you back and forth. And that is a CIF rule, just so everyone knows that so some of your coaches may do really short responses to you, and the reason that they can't really engage you is because CIF says not till May 1st. We did get a question here that I can answer real quick. All of our sports are going to have some type of summer program. So just to reiterate that, probably no matter what sport you are looking to participate in, we all are going to have some type of summer program going on this summer. So just to reiterate that. Another question, and I'll start it and let you finish it, Mr. Clinton. People are asking, can you play two sports in the same season? I will start it saying I think it really depends on the two sports. And freshman year is potentially the only year you really, really can pull it off, because it's very, very difficult to play two sports in the same season and continue to handle the rigor of Servite academics. So for me, I've had freshmen who in the past have done, track and volleyball, and kind of figure out what they want to do freshman year, but going into sophomore year, they tend to kind of pick a sport, unfortunately, and that's just really because of the demand of playing the Trinity League and the rigor of our academics. So if Coach Clinton, if you want to add to that, or
Well, I think you hit it right on the head there, Matt. With track is probably the easiest one where you would have a combo where there's a season of sports. So whether it be volleyball, baseball, a lot of times that's the one sport where we have the ability where the young man could play the same sport in one season. There has been cases, I'll give you an example, where there have been young men that have gone out for freshman basketball and also come in and wrestle for me. Not a real easy task, and they will tell you because of the way the games are scheduled and stuff like that. But the coaches have worked it out. It just becomes very difficult on the young man, the number of hours that he has to put in. So track is usually the easiest one for me to pin out there that you could do. Most of the other ones, and just the time, the commitment to each one during the season is very, very difficult. And you have to remember, each young man just in practice hours long only gets 18 hours a week for practice by CAF rules. So, if you're trying to split up that time and then you start adding game times in there, it's very difficult to do anything but, one sport per season.
perfect. This is a very specific question, but I want to make sure we get everything answered. For those young men that are going to be swimming, what sport should they be looking at doing in the fall?
That would be water polo. If they're a swimmer, I would highly suggest that they play water polo. Now, I know as time has gone over, probably the last 10 years, water polo has become very sports specific and swimming has become very sports specific. If your son is what I would call a club swimmer, then what you may want to do is you'll still enroll him in the aquatics program, but he may be training, with SoCal at an offsite or whatever it may be. And that's okay. You'll deal with Mr. Kaufman on that. And maybe he won't play water polo, but he would be in that 7th period class going to SoCal that evening and train like that. So that's a great question, because those have separated. I can tell you that our water polo players swim in the spring just in fact to help their speed. But a lot of times a swimmer doesn't play water polo, so they would do club. So you just work that out with Mr. Kaufman, and he's both a big time water polo player and swimmer, so he understands that world very, very well.
Awesome. So for our cut sports, how could a parent find out how many players would be taken on a team?
Here's the thing. It varies from, of course, sport to sport. It also varies on. Great example would be is there could be freshmen that could make one of the upper teams. So in other words, there could be a freshman that makes the varsity, let's say soccer team. Well, by a freshman making the varsity soccer team, that opens up another spot down on the freshman team. So it's kind of a magical question as to what the number is, because every sport is completely different, and it depends on, in the tryouts, the level of those kids and how many might make an upper team, a varsity team or a JV team, or if there's a frosh soft team, they might make a frosh soft team and still leave room on the freshman team. So I know that's kind of vague, but it's difficult to say, to say what's the average. Well, think of the average of the sport that you're talking about. Is it volleyball, where Coach Marujo may keep 16 young men? So that would be your number. Is it basketball, where they might keep 15, but sometimes they keep more or less? Sometimes young men make the upper levels, and so it opens up spaces. So kind of vague, but that's the best I can do on that one.
Yeah, just going through these questions. Next question, and I'll kind of quickly answer this one. For summer school is Monday through Friday, so everyone knows. They do take July 4th or July 5th off for for that holiday. Summer conditioning may be Monday through Friday, maybe Monday through Thursday, or could be different depending on your sport. But summer school itself is a Monday through Friday commitment, so everyone knows that. And then a question about, are all sports tryouts? No, we do have some sports that are cut sports, some sports that are non-cut sports. Um, just so everyone knows, and just to talk about that again real quick. This is a good question for you, Mr. Clinton. If their child doesn't have the equipment for a sport, will the school provide it for them?
The really the only sport that the equipment is provided for is football. I mean, you don't need any, and let's just go through. You don't really need any equipment for cross country except shoes to run with, type situation. In the aquatics world, you have to have your Speedo. Everything else is provided for you, or you're going to push it through your gear. Um, Football is really the only one where the gear is provided for you. Everything else, that's part of the gear package of what you're buying, and you'll have to go out and get.
Perfect. And this question is asking, is training after school typically, or some sports before school? I'll quickly answer that and then let you add on. I think they're referring to once we get into the regular school year. For the most part, most sports practice after school, especially with freshmen. There are some sports who do mornings, and that's mainly in their off-season time. Lacrosse tends to use the mornings in the off-season. Water polo is always a early morning sport. They tend to get some work in the morning and then come back in the afternoon. But I'd say majority of our sports, especially for freshmen in season, are going to be after school.
Correct. And so that once that sophomore, junior, senior year, weight training sometimes for specific sports is in the morning. So right now it's, as an incoming freshman, it's during your PE class. But then once you get to be a sophomore, junior, senior, baseball could be weight training in the morning. Lacrosse, as Coach Moreau said, could be out on the field practicing, or water polo could be weight training, and then swimming could be swimming in the morning. So, but that's usually as a sophomore, junior, and senior.
Perfect. And then maybe you and I could tag team this one. Is hockey included in the summer conditioning? I believe everyone's best bet, if you're interested in hockey, is going to be to contact Coach Northgrave, who can get you some information. They have some different rules. So if you're interested in hockey, you actually can start participating in some open skates now, because they are not a CIF sport. So 7th and 8th graders can actually participate with them today, because they're more of a club sport. So we'll defer that to Mr. Northgrave, who's the hockey coach.
Correct. And just remember, it's not a CIF sport, so it does not follow any of the governing body rules that we follow here. So you want to go directly to you also have Coach Marshall, who is also one of the coaches. So you want Northgrave or Marshall be who you want to talk to on that.
Just making sure we get everything. There was someone who wanted to know if you could provide more information on soccer. I know we don't necessarily have summer dates for them, but I don't know if you want to, Coach Soto is our newest coach. I don't know if you want to just give a little bio on Coach Soto, since we do have a lot of people who are.
Yeah, no problem. Coach Soto, of course, is brand new this year. We think is an excellent hire. He currently is the head coach at Northridge University. Before that, he was at USF, University of San Francisco, for 5 years, and then has probably the winningest record in a shortest amount of time at USF. And then before that, he was an assistant co-head coach at UCLA. So we think we've got a diamond there. So soccer-wise, right now they run 4 programs. That'll be up to Coach Soto, because he kind of inherited that, whether or not he'll keep 4 soccer programs or whether he'll go down to 3, because by league we only run varsity, JV, and Frosh soft, but he's been running an extra team this year. So whether he continues that on or not, that'll kind of be up to him. But just a great gentleman, and things are going very well for us in the soccer world. So hopefully that answers the soccer question. If you want to be a little bit more specific, feel free to send it in, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, Coach Soto's been great to work with. We're really lucky. A question came in about a son being able to manage honors, theater, and 2 sports. I can kind of take this one. It's going to all come down to communication and time management. I don't like saying no, because we have tons of examples of kids who will come and prove us wrong, and they do an amazing job. Our valedictorian last year played volleyball, played club volleyball, was in theater, speech and debate, and a long list of everything else that he did, and he totally pulled it off. So I think the best answer is it's all about their ability to prioritize and communicate. and that will determine if, each kid's different. So I think it's the best way to answer that question. Um, for physicals, coach, can you explain again where the physical form can be found?
The physical form can be found on our website. If you go into the website and go into the sports medicine category, there's an area, tabs off to the side that give you different things like concussion testing, physicals. You can go right onto that link, click it, and print out your physical right there.
And again, for this year, we're not doing a physical day. So where should they do their physicals at?
What will happen is again, as we had to do this year, our training staff will send out, there's a couple of what we would call emergency centers that donate their time to doing that for us. Derek and Sarah will be sending that out soon. So I know you're going to be on the email list here. So you'll be getting that, which we'll probably send out right at the beginning of April, so that, we had to do the same thing last year with COVID going on. So we'll put it out to you, and it's usually a very $35 or so that they did the physicals for. And then normally you would come back to here in a year from now. We'll start doing it again.
Perfect. And then this question is asking, how do we know how many sports to pay for summer conditioning? Is it best to pay for all three to be safe? I'll probably answer this and just say, if you know for sure your son's going to do all three, then absolutely pay for it. But if you're not quite sure, I'd wait, and then you could always add the registration on later. Hopefully that's okay, Coach.
Yeah, I think the key is you have to look at what the sports are. If they're a tryout sport, and all three are a tryout sport, you definitely want to be in all three, because tryouts are going to be taking place during the summer. So if you're not at one of those, you're going to miss the opportunity for tryouts. So I think you need to look at the combo of what the sports are, and that kind of answers your question on that.
Yeah, and just to add, especially for the winter and spring sports, a lot of us use the summer as tryouts, but we also do a tryout in the fall. So if for some reason, especially track, track is a non-cut sport. So if you didn't do summer conditioning for track, you always can go out to track later in the spring. They'll do signups later. Or if you didn't do volleyball during summer conditioning, but now you're interested, then I do some type of fall tryout. It is much harder to make the team in that secondary tryout, but there is some of that possibility. So again, come May, and it really stress it enough is communicating with your coach once you're allowed to, because each situation is obviously different.
Matt, can I throw something in there too? I don't know if you can put up the cut, non-cut sports again. I don't know if that's easy for you to do, probably not. But when you look at those and go through, an example is football is a non-cut sport, but you don't want to miss summer for football because they do all the registration and stuff there. So they're getting everything ready to go. It'd be almost impossible to come out for football after school started. You wouldn't have the number of days by CIF and all that kind of going through. So if you have a question on that, email me and I'll answer. Kind of know your combo, what your sports are type situation. But coaches will work with you. We just need, the combo could be so different that it'd be hard for me to say until I knew what three sports you were talking about.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you also can contact me through admissions. Luckily I've been around long enough. I think I can answer a lot of those questions. If not, I'll give you Coach Clinton's hotline. Is there a minimum GPA to play sports at Servite?
Yes, there is. It's 2.0, which is the CIF rule. Now, what you have to realize is we have specific sports which they can make this GPA much higher. So a lot of our sports go 2.3 to hold the young men accountable, but 2.0 is the CIF regulation GPA, but we can make it higher, which a lot of sports do. They carry 2.3 just because our young men need to understand that most of them are trying to go on to the next level, and just carrying a 2.0 is not good enough. That's not going to get you anywhere type situation. So we want those young men to realize that very, very early in their athletic career.
Awesome. I'm going to kind of combo a couple questions here. First off, someone asked about judo, which I know Coach is fond of. Judo is not a Servite sport. So if your son's interested in judo, they could contact Coach Clinton and get more information that way. But another question was about youth wrestling in particular, but I'm going to go a little more broad and say, when do we think some of our youth programs will be coming back?
I would hope our youth programs, we're kind of waiting for all the numbers to change and stuff. If we get in the next couple of weeks some really good readings on the numbers going out, you could see a lot of these things starting back up in April, which would be huge for us. And like example, Team Credo, which is wrestling, our judo, which is tied to my wrestling, those could start back up again. We could possibly start weight training. We'd really like to get involved in getting that back up and running again. So there's kind of an order of what we would go through. But I would say hopefully we're hoping by April, the next couple of weeks go the way we hope they go, which we keep praying on every day. I think you're going to start to see youth programs getting ready to come back in.
Awesome. A question came in about when will parents know summer school's required? I'll answer that since that comes from admissions. You should have everyone's in different places in the process, but you at some point you will get your placement email if you haven't already, and in that placement email it will let you know whether summer school is required. If you are in our honors track, we are having a special night for you guys on March 23rd, which you'll get more information about the possibility of doing summer school to get ahead on the honors track. So that will be a great night to get more information on that. So there are two different things going on. Some students are required summer school to be prepared for the fall and to get there. And then some students who are on the honors track may take summer school to get ahead. The best place to get that information will be honors night. And if you're still unsure, you can contact your counselor who can help you with that question. This is a good one. And I'm going to kind of turn around, what should eighth graders, these incoming freshmen, be doing to prepare for high school athletics? Should they be lifting weights, working out? Any advice for them to be prepared?
Well, I would say if they're sports specific, they're probably involved somehow with something. Maybe they're involved with youth basketball, club soccer, club volleyball, baseball type situation. I would definitely, you want to continue doing those. Weight training wise, if as long as you're doing it correctly with somebody that knows what they're doing, I highly suggest it. If not, then I would wait until you get here. That's why we're kind of hoping in the next couple of weeks we can start our youth lifting again, which has been very successful for us. We run that in the evening, and they come in and actually get firsthand steps in that. So it's big for us. With wrestling and stuff like that, as soon as we get going on. But if you definitely want to continue doing those, that gives you an upper hand and upper advantage. If you've not been involved in those, I highly suggest maybe you get involved at some point in level with those right now, so that you can kind of start, laying some foundation for yourself coming through.
Perfect. We're getting to the hour here, so I kind of going to try and answer as many as I can, and Coach will pop in as you can. As far as for students finding out whether they made a team or not, we really work at Servite to try and communicate that directly to the young men. Some coaches do take the time and try to have individual meetings during the end of summer to let the guys know if they made the team or if they didn't make the team, or if they're coming back for the fall tryouts, and give them that information. We really try to stay away from just posting a list and saying, here it is. So some coaches use emails. A lot of us do meetings at this point. And so that's how that will be communicated. Tennis is a cut sport. Coach, can you add on that? And then the question is, do they have a frosh off team as well as JV? So I guess
let me just go with that one. So there are two levels of tennis. There's varsity and JV. And part of our situation there is we practice at the Fullerton Tennis Club. So we get first priority, but we're limited in time and space as far as we go. So we only carry two teams, and that's all that's in the league is two teams. Matter of fact, across CIF, that's pretty much all there is two levels. So it being a cut sport, usually what will happen is, as you know, in tennis, at the high school level, when you compete, you carry 12 guys. When you go to a competition, Coach usually carries a grand total of 28 young men, 14 at each level, so that he has what we would call guys that can fill in sub, but you can only, when you go to a competition, you only have 12. So the number, 12 at a varsity, 12 at a JV, 24, but he usually carries about 28 young men. So he usually carries 2 extra at each one of those levels.
Perfect. We did have a quick question come in about fees. Again, fees are different sport to sport. We don't have a breakdown right now of each sport because our fees were so affected due to COVID. A lot of us really cut back this year because we have such shortened seasons or altered seasons. So that's something that will be announced by the coach once you make the team or you sign up for the team prior to the season. So everyone knows you do get plenty of time to budget and prepare for those fees. And lots of us have different ways to work those off. And the fees are going to be per season. So you'll normally pay, you'll pay your volleyball fee and that will be for that whole school year. And then you'll pay your wrestling fee for that whole school year. So we really try to stay away from multiple fees in a year. We just do one lump sum, and plus most of us do some fundraising as well. So that's how the fees work. And then last question for you, and I'll wrap this up, is if someone were to email a coach before the May contact period, just asking general questions, I guess kind of logistic type questions, will a coach be able to respond to them?
In most cases, they will. If it's a very general question, most coaches will. If not, they'll come over to us and give it to us, and Mrs. Cross will email you with that information.
Awesome. And that kind of wraps it up. We did get a quick question that came in saying that it looks like the month of June, July is a very intense 6 weeks between summer school and sports and stuff. And the answer to that is yes, it is. It's a very quick introduction to high school sports. And the best way to be prepared for it is to encourage your sons to ask for help when they need it, communicate with their coaches, communicate with their teachers. But I can confidently say, after reviewing all these applications, you have young men that are prepared for it. But we are here to support them and guide them through this process. And it'll be a fun 4 years. I can promise you that. And then real quick to kind of wrap it up is, unfortunately, while we are full bore, as Coach Clint was saying, with all of our current sports going, it is not open to the public at this point. So there are no spectators allowed at any competitions. It's only being limited to the athletes' parents. If that were to change, then you would see something on social media and our website, and you probably get an email about it. So there are no spectators at any of our sports. There is the possibility of some live streaming coming, depending on the venues in which we're playing. Again, that information will be posted online for people to watch. We totally understand people want to watch our athletes compete. We love watching our athletes compete. And so when we have that ability, we will definitely let everyone know. And so I think that wraps it up. So I'd like to thank Mr. Clinton. And then in the background, Ms. Carly Carlson, who has been assisting in the Q&A. But most importantly, I really like to thank all of our incoming freshman families for joining us tonight. We hope this webinar, especially the Q&A, was useful and gave you information about our Servite athletic program. Just a few dates coming up. We are hosting a Servite Rosary virtual social on Tuesday, March 16th. Pre-registration is required. It's going to be via Zoom. You can find the link in the latest admissions newsletter. And then lastly, please save the date for the new student and parent orientation on Wednesday, April 14th. More information will be emailed shortly, and our plan is to have that night be in person. So we are finalizing our COVID protocols for that. So thank you again for attending, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.